Today is our final episode in the podcast series on the nervous system, and it is an important one. Today, we're going to learn about passing it through. It's a daily practice to help rewire your nervous system. Bruce Abbott, certified professional coach, founder of SecureHusband.com. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, you understand now how the nervous system drives the bus. And we've talked about things like attachment patterns and triggers and self-abandonment and boundaries and all of those things. But your nervous system holds emotional energy that has never fully moved through your body. It gets stuck. It's been stuck. It's been suppressed and stored for decades. And when it's stored, it keeps getting triggered over and over and over again. I talked about this earlier this month, how the body keeps that feeling inside. It keeps those emotions stored inside. Today, we're going to get practical. I'm going to give you something that I hope you can bookmark this episode and come back to every day, daily, to use when you're triggered, when you're overwhelmed, rejected, frustrated, angry. This is going to be passing the emotions through. It's letting it go. Healing is not about suppressing emotion. I thought it was ironic timing today. I was behind a truck coming in with a great big sticker on the back window, had a great big letter F, and said, F your feelings. And I think a lot of men have this mentality of suppress emotions, suppress feelings. That's not healthy. That's not human. We're not biologically wired to do that. Healing is not about suppressing emotions. It's about letting this emotional energy move through your nervous system to cycle out of your body. And most men have never learned how to do that, and that's where our reactions keep coming from. So today we're going to do a practice that we can use when we're triggered, because we keep getting triggered by the same things. I mean, think about it. The same situation keeps affecting you. Her look, her tone, her rejections, her coldness send you spiraling, because the emotional energy from the past, experiences that you had probably before you were able to walk and talk, have been stored and never fully moved through you, stuck in the body. Maybe from a caregiver, from mom and dad. It could have been sibling. It could have been anybody. You learned that expressing emotions was not safe. So we will store those emotions. When those emotions get stuck, they sit in the nervous system. It's like electricity. It's like if you have something that's undischarged, and then a trigger happens, and it activates that old charge. And then your nervous system remembers those unfinished emotional experiences. I talked about this in an earlier podcast. You probably never had finality with your caregiver. You never had an opportunity to bring closure to those emotional experiences. So they just piled on inside. And your body keeps trying to complete something that it never finished in adulthood. So here's where I want to take just a brief moment before we get into the daily practice. If you follow this podcast any, you know that inner child inside of you, it's important to reach in and dialogue with that inner child. That's your feelings. That's your nervous system, really. That is those experiences as a child. So it's important to dialogue with that little boy inside. And it is so important to reach out to a higher power, divine guidance, whatever your belief system is. God, the universe, higher spirit, whatever it is. I believe that there is something we learn about unconditional love from that higher power. There's something we learn about an inherent sense of self-worth that we did not have to do anything to earn. I want to, before we start the practice, I want to put that reminder right there, because I think that can be an incredible foundation to build all of this upon, because it teaches us how to love ourselves unconditionally. Because sometimes with shame and our emotional experiences in our past, that's hard to do. I want that to stay at the foundation of what we're going to work on today. Again, this is something that only you can answer that question. With that said, let's focus on this emotional practice. I talked about this before, how emotions are feelings. Emotions are body sensations. They're not the thoughts. They're not the story. They're the feelings that we have, that knot in your stomach, the tightness in your chest. Now, your brain comes later and creates a story but the body feels it first, and then usually the narrative follows. But the body's always going to feel it first. If you don't allow that emotional sensation to move through you, your nervous system is going to store it. And as I mentioned, it will come back again and again and again when it's triggered. What usually happens is men will deal with this emotion in one of two ways. They're going to suppress it, or they react it out. Neither one resolves the issues. Neither one of them helps regulate the nervous system. Suppression, it just stores it and piles up for decades. Reaction, think of it as like a discharge. If you think of emotions as energy, think about an uncontrolled discharge. It could be like an explosion, but usually that ends up creating a lot of damage. True regulation comes from something completely different. It's allowing this emotional experience to move fully through the body without suppression, without acting on it, without collapsing, just letting it come in and then passing it through. This is about the feeling cycling through your body. It's not an instant relief. I just want to get that clear. It's just allowing it to exist and release. And we'll talk about this. You're not fixing anything. You're not fixing a solution. You're not fixing a problem. You are simply allowing the feeling when it hits you emotionally like a trigger. You pause. You don't react. You don't analyze it. You don't do that. You just say, what is being activated right now in my body? What sensation am I feeling? Ignore the story. Ignore the narrative. The sensation. What am I feeling? Where do I feel it? In my chest? In my throat? In my gut? Emotions always show up at sensation first. Eventually, you will get really good at this and you can just notice this in a fraction of a second. But right now, this is going to take a little time to practice with. We'll talk about this in a little bit, about how often to practice this. One thing that I like to do is if there's an issue that's really, really bothering you, if there's a trigger that's fresh in your mind, think about that trigger. And that then, boom, you will feel that sensation with that trigger. Go with that. Stay with the sensation. Because staying with the sensation is going to feel unfamiliar. It's going to feel very uncomfortable. This is where that sitting with the discomfort comes in. Guys usually will bail out on this part because this is where it's just like, I don't like this feeling. I'm going to stuff it. But this is where the healing happens. Instead of distracting or reacting, you stay present in it. And you just feel that sensation. You feel that discomfort. And just notice, what does the sensation feel like? Is it tight? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel hot? Numb? Just notice it. You're not trying to change it. You're just allowing it to exist. What this does is it tells your nervous system it is safe to feel this. Remember, this is all about feeling. Go back to that last podcast. This is feeling. Because your mind is going to want to narrate this, especially if you're bringing up a trigger or you're in the middle of being triggered. She doesn't want to have sex with me. I'm not wanted. She doesn't care. She doesn't find me attractive. This is never going to change. I'm always rejected. Let the mind go for now. Let that story soften. Yes, it's normal that our brain will want to add a story to the feeling, but just come back to the feeling. Return to that sensation. Let that feeling sit in your body and push the narrative aside. You can come back to that story later if you need to, but right now we're just letting an emotional wave move through us. It's energy. Emotion is energy, and energy moves. If you stay present in this, you may notice that the tightness in your chest shifts a little bit, that maybe that pressure softens, maybe it moves, maybe it changes location. This is the nervous system processing. You don't want to interrupt this by distracting, going to the narrative, reacting. No, just stay with it. Let that feeling move and just think of it passing through you. Again, this is going to be something that's you're going to be able to do in just like a second. But right now, I'm just walking through it step by step. Then as that sensation moves, I want you to breathe. Breathe into the area where you feel that sensation and just breathe into it. Imagine giving that sensation space. You're allowing it to move through you. What I like to do, and my coaching clients always joke with me about this, I call it the breathe and squeeze. There's a muscle, perineum muscle, between your like rectum and scrotum. And I like to take and squeeze that muscle because it's tied in with our vagal system, which kind of helps with our parasympathetic nervous system. And so what I like to do is sometimes I'll pulse that muscle or I'll hold that muscle while I take a big, deep breath. And then as I release the breath with the squeeze, I feel all of that emotional energy just discharging. My coaching clients are like, you and your damn sphincter squeezes, Bruce. But this is powerful because what it does is it allows the sensation to come in and pass through you. And it doesn't get stored in your nervous system. And when it cycles out, your nervous system now updates. It says, oh, okay, this is safe. I am okay sitting in this sensation. I am okay sitting with this emotion. That stored charge, that energy that releases, what you'll find is triggers tend to lose their intensity. And you're able to stay grounded and stay in this moment of clarity in a triggering moment. And you stop carrying unfinished emotional energy from moment to moment, year to year. And you're no longer just piling that emotional weight on, stacking it over and over and over like you did when you were young. Now you process it in real time in a healthy way. That's emotional regulation. That is regulating your nervous system. You have got to have that component in the healing process. Go back to that last podcast. Awareness is only going to help you so much. You have got to be able to regulate those feelings. And you got to do this consistently. It's just like going to the gym. You're not going to just go to the gym a couple of times and be fit. No, you got to stick with it. Be consistent. Same with your nervous system. This is daily work. Take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes. Whenever activation happens, if the trigger happens, you don't have to be perfect at it. You just need to be willing to feel it and pass it through. Breathe it through your body. And you'll learn how to do this. Stimulus response, bam, bam. You'll be able to just, you're triggered, then it's boom. I feel that sensation. I notice that sensation. I feel it. What is it? Breathe in. Just sit with the discomfort. Let that feeling go. Just let it pass right through you. Exhale. And you may have to do this a few times to let that feeling completely go through you and discharge that energy in a healthy way. Now, sometimes the emotions are going to be very overwhelming. I get it. When what surfaces is huge, if you've got old grief, shame, anger, fear, this may take many, many rounds of doing this in the moment. And if it really feels big to you, you're doing it right. It means that stored energy inside is finally moving. Just stay with what you can manage. You don't have to process everything at once, just what's present. Keep in mind, this is like layers, like sediment just piled upon years and years and years and years. When you can learn to pass that emotion through, what's going to happen is you're going to stop overreacting. You're going to stop shutting down and carrying resentment. You stop living in chronic activation. That's where you learned it from your childhood, how to live in a state of hypervigilance. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to be in that chronic activation state anymore. You now become someone whose nervous system can process the experience and process it through you and out instead of storing it. And that's going to change how you show up in every relationship you have, not just your marriage. This is why I want you to bookmark this episode. Every day, take 5 or 10 minutes just to sit quietly. Just scan that sensation, notice it, feel it. What am I carrying right now? Notice it. Where is it at? Stay with it. Breathe, squeeze, allow it to move. Connect it to a higher power. Just process it. Sit with the discomfort and let it go through you. You're not fixing any issues. You're not forcing any solutions. You're just staying present and letting the feeling pass through you. You do this every day. Do it a couple of times a day. Do it whenever you're triggered. This will become your new nervous system baseline. It all comes down to nervous system regulation. Everything we've talked about in this series comes down to this: regulating your nervous system and just letting that emotional energy move through you instead of keeping it stuck inside of you. If you practice this consistently and be patient, it takes some time, your nervous system will change. I promise you. Your reactivity will change, your clarity will change, your sense of self-worth will change. Do this work every day. Every time you allow that emotion, that sensation to pass through you instead of storing it, you move one step closer to becoming regulated, grounded, a secure husband. I hope you enjoyed this month-long series. The nervous system regulation piece is probably the most important of all of this. And when you're regulated, it helps you take those loving actions that you need. Sometimes those loving actions are setting boundaries. That is going to be our topic for our next month's podcast series. Boundaries. What do they look like? How do we set them? But the key to setting them is being emotionally regulated. So hope you like the podcast series. If you're not a subscriber, would you subscribe? If you're a regular listener, would you go give me a review? I'd appreciate that. And if you think this episode might be good for somebody who you know, share this episode with a friend. And if you need accountability, if you need somebody to help you walk through all of this, I encourage you to visit securehusband.com. Fill out that form for a free 30-minute consultation. There's no sales pitch. I'm not pushing anything. It's just a conversation to see, hey, is one-on-one coaching right for you? And I'll see you on the next Secure Husband podcast. Thanks for listening.